Are live. Ooh, let me back up from the mic. We're live here on the Check Swing podcast with myself, and of course, the start of the show wearing his first base coach helmet. My man, Coach Santa, is in the building. We are here a little later than usual because life happens and family first. And congratulations to my daughter as she won first place for the second year in a row at her school's Halloween dance. Last year she was Cruella DeVille. She killed it. This year she was Princess Tiana from Princess and the Frog, and she killed it. So congratulations to her. She was excited. So how
Awesome.
you been, Coach?
And for the record, this is a third base coach. helmet.
Oh, my bad, my bad, my bad.
Well, I mean, it's coach's helmet. Bases are irrelevant.
It looks like it came with a scoop of ice cream.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to take it off. Because when you put it on, it was like, and I'm like,
Uh,
yeah. So
yeah,
when I go like this, my forehead,
yeah, yeah. You're in trouble.
yeah, I might have to sleep with this tonight. I'll ask my wife for some butter in the morning, see if she can hook me up.
Yeah, I'm sure she's going to be thrilled when you get in the bed.
That's what happens when you put it on before you get a haircut. Um, but this is actually the logo to the new organization that I'm part of, which is the Dirt Bags.
The dirt bags.
So
Shout
this
out
is
to the dirt bags. I'm not talking about was it Long Beach State or something like that?
no, although there is one there. I think they originated in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I'm talking about the college team. I'm not giving a shout out to the college team that's known as the dirt bags. I'm giving a shout out
Oh,
to your team that's
correct.
known as the dirt bags.
The Dirt Bags of Maryland.
There you go. Shout out to the dirt bags of Maryland. We got a show that we're going to talk about today. Of course, being Phillies fans, we got to talk about what the Phillies did and did not do in the playoffs in the NLCS. We got to talk about that and some of the blowback that has been happening. We got to talk about Craig Kimbrell and his two outings. We'll get to that. Taiwan Walker, who we did not see in the entire playoffs, had some words, and we'll talk about that. There was I'm going to call it a surprise retirement from Major League Baseball, only because there was no
Warning.
warning. There you go. Thank you. There was no warning that this was going to happen. But those are some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Along with, we got some Eagle stuff we're going to cover. The Sixers started yesterday. I'm going to talk about them real brief, if you don't mind, Miguel. I thought the Sixers yesterday. I watched the game. They played one of the better teams in the NBA, in the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis and now Damian Lillard, and I feel like I feel like I feel like the Sixers are going to be okay. They lost by one, but for a lot of the night, it looked like they were confused with some things in a couple of sets that they were running, and like defensively and offensively, they look confused. And that can happen when you are running a brand new system with a brand new coach. So there's some learning curve there. There's some growing pains that's going to happen. But I think once they get into the groove and understand the system, I think they're going to be in a good spot. I think they really are going to be in a good spot. I don't think they'll win the East. I'm not a person that right now that feels like they're a championship contender, but I think they'll be a fun team to watch. So that's all I really wanted to say about them. If you had anything you wanted to say about them, you can go ahead and take over. But that was pretty much it for me.
Okay. I was more so just wondering what your thoughts on the Harden situation and him being
The overall Harden situation, or the Harden situation from him not being able to get on the plane.
yes.
Okay, so the Harden situation. How do I feel about this? I've kind of flip flop on my feelings with this a few times. Um, when James Harden wanted a trade, I said go ahead and trade him. because I feel like the James Harden Philadelphia thought they were going to get is not who Philadelphia got. I mean, he's on the downside of his career, so it's not going to be what you were probably expecting. With that being said, if what he's saying is true, that he was promised one thing and the promise did not come to fruition, part of me wonders what he was promised. Was he promised something that is an easy deliverable that is just now not happening, or was he promised something like, okay, I'm going to trade you to the LA Clippers, and if that was a promise, yes, a promise can be made there by one person, but to understand that the on the other side, the Clippers have to want to make that happen too. So I'm kind of wondering what the promise was there that caused James Harden to be upset with the situation here in Philadelphia. With that being said, and then the playing thing that was interesting to me, and I'm gonna tell you why. Um, he was away from the team for a week, maybe less, maybe a little less than a week. Didn't practice with the team or anything like that, and then he kind of just shows up at the to get on the plane, right? Um, Now, if this were like high school or college or something like that, and you're like, no, you can say no, you're not coming with us. It's not happening. But we know things are different when it comes to professional athletes, right? Like for instance, let me take it to baseball. In baseball, Trey Turner was swinging wildly the other day in the game, and somebody I heard somebody say Topper should have benched such and such and such and such. Man, like in high school and college, yeah, you can do that. But unfortunately, in the pros, it's not that easy because yeah, you're the manager, but you're not really running the team. You're running the baseball aspect of the team. You're a lot of times now in professional baseball, the general manager creates the lineup. Right? There's a lot of teams that do that. So when James Harden arrives at the airport or wherever they were leaving from, he probably should have been allowed. Well, no, I'm going to say he should have been allowed to go on the trip simply because now, and shout out to R. Dot for explaining this to me. Now the NBA is investigating that whole situation because now with there's a rule in place in the NBA where if it is a nationally televised game and you are a healthy player, you are supposed to be dressed. Really? No. My goodness. You are supposed to be dressed for the game. You're supposed to be dressed. So him not being allowed and being healthy, that could cost the Sixers some money at this point. It could cost the Sixers some money. So that not smart on the Sixers part because now it could cost you money. Now on the other side of that, if he comes, how does that jive with the rest of the team? How does the team feel? Should he play? Should he sit the bench? Is he going to be an issue? Is he going to be a good teammate? What is he going to be? You don't know, but you did not give him that chance to find out. So how do I feel? I know how do I feel about the James Harden situation? I feel like it's a touchy subject because I feel like we really just don't know. We really just don't know what we don't know. You know what I mean? Like nobody said what the promise was. Nobody said whether or not it was confirmed that that's what the promise was. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of in the dark. We're kind of grasping at for just to put a term out there where I know it don't even make sense. We're just grasping at superlatives. Make me sound smart. Every time I do something like that, Miguel, there was a time a while back when I want to say maybe after I think it was that first year I started. I was a head coach at Penwood, and you were working with me, and you said something about a student that always used phrases the wrong way, like the wrong situations. So every time just use a word just to sound smart, and I know it doesn't fit, I think about what you told me about that kid. The
Oh,
funny thing is, I know that kid's family too.
$1,000 words and 10-cent situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that is exactly what it is.
This
Exactly
whole
what it is.
situation reminds me of when there were rumors going around about Deshaun Jackson and
Mm,
and that being the reason why he was being traded by Chip Kelly. And I think within the same week, then we lost LaShawn McCoy.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember somebody saying, when the truth comes out, it's gonna blow your mind. And at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that Chip Kelly just wanted yes men to just run the plays and do what he says. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? That just popped into my head just now. A lot of the offensive line from when Chip Kelly was there is the same offensive line now. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelly, Jason Kelsey, excuse me. Jordan Mailata, I think, was on the team, but he wasn't a starter at the time. I think because I think Mailata wasn't he
he was in Australia. He was
Andy Reid? Wasn't he an Andy Reid selection?
no, he actually came. I think the second year under Chip, but he was an experiment. It was an experiment,
Right, right, you're right.
and
I remember it being an experiment,
I
but
don't think he started until he didn't even start the Super Bowl year.
no, he didn't. He
So
didn't play
right, he was.
because Jason Peters was the starter, and then he got hurt, and then
Right.
somebody else filled in. I forgot who it was though. I'm sorry, I'm just looking up when Jordan Mailata was drafted, and I don't know how to spell his name. Oh, good, it came up on his own. Let's see.
And he, I don't think that he actually was drafted. He was
No, he
just
was. He was drafted. I remember because they were showing his highlights, his rugby highlights when he was drafted. Um, he was the seventh. He was the 233rd pick in the
nice.
draft. He was drafted in the seventh round. Offensive lineman. I wonder how many guys that play like that are playing football. Stupid way to put that. How many guys that are not kickers? Okay, actually didn't that are in the NFL actually did not go to college. He did not go to college. I find that interesting because I didn't know he didn't go to college. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's my first. I'm just finding that out just now, looking him up. Um, did you know?
Uh-oh.
As I'm looking at his some of his stuff. Did you know he has a forced fumble?
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either, and I'd be interested in knowing how that came about. But he was drafted in 2018, and I don't know who the coach was in 20. Oh, that was
Peterson.
yeah, that was Doug Peterson. Yeah, so he came the year after the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl was 2017.
Mhm.
So he came the year after the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's why he didn't fill in for Jason Peters because he wasn't on the team. Shout out to Jordan Mailata, man. He's a star out here too, and he was on the Masked Singer. So I thought that
Yeah,
was pretty.
he got some pipes.
It's
And doesn't he play like what's that? The ukulele or the
probably,
he plays one of those little small instruments.
probably the little Tiny Tim Joe, or was that his name?
Tiny Timmy.
Tiny
Yeah,
Tim.
that
Tiny Tim.
yeah, that
Um,
dude.
let's talk. Let's talk a little bit about the Eagles. I mean, excuse me, the Phillies. Um, first, first, let me say, I'm going to say this. I just want to say this first and foremost. I know you're not here, so you don't. I don't know if you listen to our sports radio here on the internet or whatever, but all week, or at least since Game Seven, the talk has been about the Phillies all week. Um, about just people saying, yeah, Thompson needs to be fired. There's people saying just break the whole thing up. Like people, that's the one thing that bothers me about Philly. Like you jumping off the deep end,
The overreaction.
overreaction because you lost in the playoffs. Okay. Um, I lost my train of thought again.
You were talking about everybody overreacting about.
Oh, thank you. So I don't think we're going to hear anything about the Eagles. I'm excuse me, the Phillies after Sunday. I really don't. I mean, there's going to be some mention of it, but after the Eagles play Sunday, no matter what they do, especially if they lose, um, you're not going to hear anything else about the Phillies until like February. I think people will get over it real quick as soon as the Eagles play. What's your thoughts?
I think it's going to depend on this World Series. And I only say that because, like, even in watching the game right now, it's back and forth. It's a lot of small ball. The thing that we've been kind of talking about all season, that the Phillies did in spurts, but I think they just relied on trying to hit 6 home runs a game, especially the last 2 games of the series. But I think if this World Series goes to 7, I think you're gonna hear, or kind of like the pain's gonna be expounded upon, because it's gonna be like it could have been us. And what I'll say about it is, number one, congrats to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I admired the fact that they did the things that we either did not do, could not do, or just refused to do. Um, when your leadoff hitter is, striking out constantly, not doing leadoff hitter things, and your cleanup hitter is like one for like 1,000, and people ask you about the lineup and you say it's gonna stay the same, you're asking to lose. You know what I mean? And I know there's coaches out there like, oh well, you don't change when players are slumping, you change when you're losing. And I'm like, okay, we lost the series, now what? You know what I mean? So it's like, I respect Thompson for doing what he did in the regular season, but and I think this all goes back to the beef I had in the World Series when it was the Dodgers and the Rays, and how Blake Snell was dealing, and he was getting ready to face the batters. He only had 65 pitches through 6 innings, and they
Mm-hmm.
take him out, and it was like double walk, triple home run. It was like that was
All the
completely,
wheels fell off.
all the wheels fell off.
Yeah, that will always stand out to me.
But
Always.
since then, it just seems like everybody's been kind of doing the same thing, and I think Thompson fell into that same pattern.
He did. He absolutely did. And we actually spoke about it on the show because I think I text you
Mhm,
when he didn't do it. I think it was against the Braves.
mhm.
He didn't do it. Left Zach Wheeler in there, and the guy hits a home run off him. All right.
But
And then I text you when that happened. I was like, he's not going to make that mistake again in this postseason, and he did.
but
He
but it
did.
but it didn't cost him the game though. He gave up the home
No,
run,
not costing the game.
and
Right.
all it was okay. Cause so like I've been in that situation before, where third time around, and then something kind of goes down. I go out, I talk to my pitcher. I'm like, all right, let's reset, restart. Change the sequence. Let's start. Start off with your third pitch. If you have one, and then go from there. And most of the times they would settle in and then get the next two outs or get the last guy out. So it was like, what is it gonna take to not be so submissive to analytics?
You sent me something today. I believe it was you.
Here, I'll put.
The quote from the Texas Rangers player.
Yeah,
Here's
I
your
have it. I have it posted up.
Okay, here we go. He said, and this is AJ Brzezinski. He said, spend money, make trades, make smart moves. And this is the best part of the quote for me. Don't be all analytics. You know, I equate sports analytics to the blackjack chart. Have you ever seen the blackjack chart, Miguel?
Nope.
Okay. Have you ever played blackjack before?
Uh, Not sober.
Okay. So that's a yes. Um,
I played it, but I don't remember.
hold on. I want to show you the blackjack chart. This is the chart for playing in the casino. Okay. I'm going to take this down and I'm going to, which would be a good one to show. I'm going to show this one now. Okay. Didn't. Okay. There we go. All right. Here we go. I'm going to show you this real quick. Where is it? Here it is. All right, so you're not going to be able to see that well. Okay, I thought.
Hold on.
There we go. You're still not going to be able to see it that well. Let me see. I don't know how to make that any bigger, but anyway, I'll tell you. I'll try to break it down for you. So what we're looking at with this blackjack chart, right? The This line here for this section, this line is hard total. So between 5 and 7, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, all the way to 17. It tells you what to do. So um, if the dealer has a 5 or a 7, or no, is it you? If you have a 5 or a 7, okay, a 5, 6, or 7, and the dealer's up card, because you're only seeing one of the dealer's cards, the dealer's up card is a 2, it's telling you to hit. If it's 3, it's telling you to hit, blah, 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 blah. If your total of your hand is a 10 and the dealer's up card is a 2, it's telling you to draw. Excuse me, it's telling you to I haven't played blackjack in a while. I'm trying to think. It's stay, hit, and double down. So they'll tell you to double down, whatever. Anyway, so it's telling you what to do in each situation of blackjack, what you have, what the dealer has. But if you stick to this plan, you should be successful more than not, right? I feel like with baseball analytics, if you stick to the plan in baseball analytics, it's not necessarily the same case as in like blackjack, where you'll be successful more times than not. I feel like in analytics in baseball, it's you'll be successful because people have been successful at it in the past, but there's no real mathematic equation that's going to tell you why you'll be successful at this. It's
But
all based on what has happened before.
right, but even with the analytics that is somewhat used, what it does is in baseball, it you're eliminating risk. So basically, that's why you don't bunt under analytics, or you don't steal bases under analytics, because the probability of you being out is almost like a 50-50 split, so to speak.
Mm,
And the whole idea is go one base at a time, do not give up an out, and don't give up the opportunity for the chance of an out. You know
okay.
what I mean? Because that's why analytics is perfect in an analytical world, except for the sacrifice and the steal. Now, if you notice, even in tonight's game I'm watching, between both teams, there's already 5 stolen bases.
Fun.
You think what I'm saying?
That's
So it's
fun being.
like, even and even when you remember back in the day, right? Ricky Henderson would walk. You're like, okay, he's either gonna get to second on his own.
Hmm.
Maybe there's a wild throw and there's an opportunity for him to get to third. So usually what happened, he would steal second. The number two hitter would move him over either by a bunt or a ground ball to the second baseman and move him over. Fly ball to center field, sacrifice fly. He's already produced the run. Analytics would still have him on first base.
Mm.
Don't take the opportunity to chance an out.
And I feel like you know way more about analytics than I do. But I feel like analytics is like black and white, where it's like, all right, you shouldn't steal because you could get thrown out, right? But if you have Ricky Henderson on your team, you should be stealing.
Right. And if it's Ricky Henderson and the catcher's like Darren Dalton, I'm sorry, I love them to death. I'm stealing on them all day. Now,
If
if
I'm
my
Ricky Henderson, I'm stealing on everybody all day.
well, except for there's one person in Major League history that threw him out twice in one game, and that was Pudge.
Pudge was a beast,
He
and he
was
was
a beast.
quick. I don't know what his pop time was, but it was crazy.
It was great, but for him to have, he was in I think the 30 percentile in his caught stealing, which
So, question, put your coach's hat on. You already have it on. Um,
I can't take it off. Shit.
if you're a coach and you have Ricky Henderson on first and with no outs, and Pudge is behind the plate, are you not sending Ricky Henderson?
I'm absolutely sending Randy Johnson, but I know that there's going to be, little cat and mouse, little chess game. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, Ricky Henderson being Ricky Henderson, he's gonna figure out how to get that stolen base. Even if I know last game he threw him out twice in the same game, I would just maybe be a little bit more strategic about it.
People walking around this house like they stomping all over the place. Like, geez, what do you?
It's not their fault. It's the house.
No, it's their fault.
Because no, because the acoustics in my house are really bad. Like my wife dropped a pen, and it sounded like a plane was landing at LaGuardia or something.
And I get that. Part of the reason I'm hearing it so much is because the house is so hollow right now. But if you're walking on your heels, if you don't have any shoes on, you're walking on your heels, and you just hear bang, 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 bang. That's not the house's fault.
Right, I got you.
I can't blame the house as much as I would like to. I cannot blame the house. I just can't blame the house on that. It's just some of the people in this house are very heavy footed, especially when I'm doing a show. Uh, um, I'm not a fan of analytics, right? I feel like there are analytics in every situation that a coach goes through, whether they believe in analytics or not, right?
It's a
Like you
tool.
don't bunt with you tell people not to bunt with two strikes because there's a chance they could foul the ball off and that's strike three.
Right.
So you don't. That's kind of an analytic thing. You're trying to avoid that out because there's a possibility that you could foul that ball off and it's strike three. Um, there's analytics involved when you have. I'm just going to take Kyle Schwarber. When you have Kyle Schwarber on base, you're probably not telling him to steal
Although
because
he he,
technically,
he
go
got
ahead.
he, he
What you
got
about to
he
say?
got he got America the free tacos last year,
He
so
did. He actually last season, he had quite a few stolen bases
he
in the
did.
postseason. He
He
had quite a few. But what I'm saying is like you don't need analytics to tell you I'm sending Jimmy Rollins. I'm not sending Ryan Howard. But in your own mind, your own analytics is telling you that. Like that's personal analytics. And that's where, to me, that's where managers, coaches, managers are the most effective.
Mhm.
Because when you're looking at analytics, you're looking at numbers. You're not looking at a player and what their skill set is and how hot they've been lately or cold they've been. You're not looking at that when you're looking at analytics. You're
and
just looking at, well, this is the situation and this is what usually happens.
and you're not even to go a little deeper, you're not looking at the weather. You're not looking at whether it's a day game or a night game, grass or
Mhm.
turf. It's pretty much like don't bunt because you can get an out. I'm like, okay, but it's drizzling, it's 40 degrees, everybody's freezing their behind off. I'm bunting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not a fan of blanket analytics.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that. I am a fan of smart moves because of personal analytics, coaches' decisions. Like these things are analytics, but they just may not be on paper. But I'm not a fan of blanket analytics. Coach saying, I got a question for you. It's not related to anything we're talking about, but it is related to sports. And I was
Uh,
thinking about it today, and I was like, you know what? I just thought right now, let me ask Miguel and see what he thinks. Is there any sport that you feel like should not be played on AstroTurf? That any sport that is or could potentially be on as like baseball, football, like I mean like not basketball because obviously they play on hardwood. That's what I'm getting at. Is there any sports that you feel like should not be played on AstroTurf?
Football.
Football.
Um, I mean, I,
You believe football should be played on grass?
it should be played on grass. I mean, I've seen the newer types of turf that's supposed to have it's supposed to be a little bit softer or at least a little more give. But I mean,
Mhm.
it's still some give. I mean, look at the situation at MetLife. Um, I mean, you had in the span of like 4 games, you had your franchise quarterback blow out his Achilles, and another I think running back Barkley tore his ACL on that field, and you're getting a lot of injuries on that turf.
Do you
No,
feel like the Aaron Rodgers injury was due to AstroTurf?
there was when you look at the nature of the injury, it didn't look like it was anything bad, right? But when you kind of look at it closer, it was like his foot went here and it kind of popped. If it were grass, there would have been a little give. So he
Okay.
may have like twinged it a little bit, but for his Achilles to freaking pop,
Yeah.
I think in baseball. I think for me, it's more of like a personal preference, but from a financial standpoint, it makes sense to have turf. Um,
Okay.
Especially from the organizations that you and I used to be at. Um, it's just a lot of maintenance when it comes to like traditional grass and dirt. But I think in baseball it works, and um, when it comes to like the hops and stuff, yeah, they are kind of like right there. Um, versus grass where you get a divot, the ball can go in either direction. So it may produce like some lazy fielders. But I think as far as from an injury standpoint, you're seeing injuries now more than ever happening on turf and football.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I wouldn't disagree with that. For me, the sport was soccer.
Ooh,
Surprising.
that's
Soccer.
a good one.
I feel like soccer should not be played on AstroTurf at all.
That's a
Um,
good one.
because I feel like there's so much less friction.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because that's the only sport where the ball is always on the ground for the most part. You know what I mean? And that changes a lot. It changes a lot, and it's just a question I thought of today. I was just thinking like I was just thinking about like the Penwood soccer team and how they would play their whole season on grass, and then they would get to the playoffs and go to a team that had AstroTurf, and now the game is like so much faster, but they've been playing at a certain pace all year.
Hmm.
Now that pace has changed, and it's the playoffs, and it kind of messes them up. So you know, it is what it is. Um, let's talk about Craig Kimbrell real quick. Phillies one-time closer. Um, I'll let you start. I'll let you start because I have some things that I want to say, but I want to kind of organize my thoughts. And I'm sure when it's my turn to go, they won't be organized. But go ahead.
What's to say about Craig Kimbrell? He sucks. Thank you. No, uh, so let's back up a little bit in regards to why the Phillies lost, especially after being up 2 games to none. And people forget last year the Phillies were actually up 2 games to one against Houston. So that's
Mhm.
two series that we blew. And I think
Outside, not counting. I'm sorry to cut you off.
you could
Not counting the wild card rounds. We lost every game two until the NLCS of this year.
wow.
Braves last year. I believe this Padres last
Padres
year.
last year, yeah.
Houston last year. The Braves this year. And then this year we did not lose game two against the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's the game we should have choked. Um I had flashbacks to '93. Uh
Oh.
when Mitch Williams was being used, and you can kind of tell, when you look back at some of the games now, you're like, wow, he's gassed. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um and I remember even going back further than that, listening to Tug McGraw when he was talking about the '80 World Series, and seeing how, oh my God, sorry, Arizona just hit a game tying home run in the bottom of the ninth.
Oh shoot! When I was looking at it earlier, Arizona was winning.
Yeah, and then it's been back and forth. So now it's 5-5 in the bottom of the ninth. Hit it upper deck, Jesus. Um,
Yeah, I don't care about that game.
so he was gassed too, Tug McGraw, and I mean he was and for him to throw the last pitch right over the plate for a strikeout to win the World Series after loading the bases, and he still had that grit, but then you see Mitch Williams, and you're like, man, he's just he's out of it, and he did that stupid slide step after walking Ricky Henderson, and then we all know what happened there. It's like,
Yeah, I hate when you remind me of that whole thing.
then you come up to Kimbrel, and I saw signs. You know what I mean? I saw
Mhm.
signs. Yeah, he was pretty good in September. Had one or two saves. In the prior rounds of the playoffs, and I just he's one of those pitchers. Like, man, I just felt so uneasy. But a pitcher that I felt confident in was Alvarado. So in my mind, if I'm a manager or a coach in the playoffs and I'm making a change, knowing what Kimbrel has and doesn't have, why not make Alvarado your closer?
Yeah, it seemed like it was starting to go that way. I'll be honest with you. I was kind of disappointed in Alvarado with these
What?
playoffs. I was kind of disappointed in Alvarado.
But he was
Um,
clutch. So even the game, I know he. So the game that he
he
came,
lost one of the games, if I
uh,
remember correctly.
he lost one of the games.
He
He
lost
lost
one
the
of the
game.
games.
He lost one of the games coming in for Kimbrel, but that was on the manager because he called the bullpen late, so he had to rush to warm up. He wasn't
Mhm.
fully warm when he got on the mound, and because the announcers picked up on that, they're like, "Well, he's kind of rushed." The day before that,
So,
but the day,
Miguel, you know me.
but hold on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But even the day before that, he was clutch. Got you 2 innings, got you to the bridge. You know what I mean? And he's
Right.
been doing that. He did that last year too.
I want to say that in two of the four, if not three of the four losses, two of the losses, you can definitely put on Kimbrel in a sense. Kimbrel gave up the game you were just talking about. He gave up the tying run, and then Alvarado gave up the winning run. But if I remember correct, there was another game where Alvarado came in and it just didn't work out well for him. And it was in that same series. But see, like people come down on Kimbrel, and justifiably so, based on his performance in two of those games. But just in the previous series, people forget Kimbrel came in and got us what 5 outs,
Mhm.
maybe 6 outs in the previous series. And if I'm not mistaken, he did something like that twice in the previous series. I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So at that point, Kimbrel was okay. And then all of a sudden, now it's a mistake that he was in there pitching. No, he proved himself against the Braves. To me, he came in Arizona and he just didn't have it. It's not like he sucked the whole playoffs. He sucked in 2 games.
Which is 2 games that we should have won, and we should be playing in
Two
this World
games we should have
Series.
won. At least one of those games we should have won. But 2 games we should have won. And yeah, actually, no, you're right. Two games
Both
we should have won. We should have won both of them. And um, but I mean, it is what it is. If I'm the coach, I'm putting Kimbrel out there too because he just showed me against the Braves that he's capable, more than capable.
I
So
wouldn't.
I gotta go with him. Like, there's nothing in my mind that says no, I can't go to Kimbrel. There's
I,
nothing in my mind that tells me not to go to
I,
Kimbrel.
just the way he was locating or not locating his pitches, the fact that pretty much if he walks somebody, they're going to walk to second base because he doesn't like holding people. Just
Right.
that whole scenario.
So you're saying he should not even have been pitching at all
Not after the first one. Not
after
after
the
that.
first loss, after
After
the
the
first
first ball, yeah,
in the NLCS. You're saying.
yeah.
So after that, I'm okay with that theory, but are you now giving up on somebody after one bad outing in the playoffs? Like you're not going to give him the chance to show that he might actually be the guy from the Braves series, not the guy that just lost you the game in this series. So you're not
Casti-
giving him that chance.
Castellanos had the perfect quote. He said for the first time in his life, he realized that the regular season is different than the playoffs. You got to coach different when it's about winning championships. You have to coach different. Um, it's the thing that killed us in '93. You had a and in that series you had 3 games where he proved to you that he was done, but you kept throwing him out there out of loyalty. You know what I mean? And
You talking about Mitch Williams?
Mitch Williams, because remember you still had
I'll be honest with you, and I was a kid. Then we both were kids.
yeah.
I mean, Mitch Williams was great for box office,
Hmm.
but at that time, and I was a kid, like I said, I never really felt comfortable with him on the mound.
Right.
Never. Like his name was Wild Thing, for
Hmm.
God's sake. Like I never felt comfortable with Mitch Williams on the mound. Now, not that my memory is as good as yours, but I don't remember Mitch Williams having. I'm not saying it never happened, but I don't remember Mitch Williams having two dominant situations like Kimbrel did against the Braves. I don't remember. He may have. I just don't remember if he did.
So the game that they clinched the NLCS, he had a 1-2-3 inning. It was the only 1-2-3 inning save that he had in the playoffs.
You talking
But
about
it
Mitch
was
Williams?
Mitch Williams. Now,
So okay, but that's great, but that's not what I was referring. I'm talking about where he would come in and get 1 or 2 outs the previous inning and then shut it down in the ninth. That's what I was
I got
referring to
you. I got
because I don't even think there was enough trust in Mitch Williams to do something like that. Like
you.
I
Right.
don't think Jim Fregosi would have ever put Mitch Williams in the eighth inning.
Well, no, and he had the perfect set of guys in Roger Mason and David West. So he
Mm.
didn't have to do that. It was completely unnecessary.
So why do you think, in your mind, Topper put in Kimbrel in the eighth inning in essence? You think he was just Alvarado didn't have it? Let me put
Yeah,
Kimbrel in to
I,
finish it
I,
out.
I mean, and not for nothing, and people forget that Alvarado threw 3 straight games, and I think in back-to-back games he threw 2 innings. I think he mismanaged the bullpen from the standpoint of you didn't pitch Walker, and you didn't even pitch Lorenzen, and he even said that the only reason why they were on the roster was to get innings. It's like, okay, well, here's your opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And I know that there was an opportunity for Walker to start. And I believe they had some sort of simulated, pitching outing between Walker and Sanchez, and Sanchez won out, but you still only gave him 2 and 2/3 innings to pitch. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You were confident. I think in his mind, other than Wheeler and Nola, all the other games are going to be bullpen games. Because even Suarez, he only threw him for three and a third. You know what I mean? And he was gelling, pretty well. And it's like you went right to your bullpen. So I think that's where Topper kind of went too analytical. Where
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree because I feel like he dropped the ball when he didn't put in Lorenz and he didn't put in Walker at all. Matter of fact, Walker, as far as I can tell, never even touched the bullpen. I think he was on the main bench the entire playoffs.
yeah, and he
I
was on.
feel like I always saw him on the main bench.
Yeah, he was on the top step without his hat on. Um, so let's see, stat wise, the Phillies didn't have a hit in their final 17 plate appearances.
I'm going to put this graphic up that you have there.
Go for it.
Combined 1 for 28. That's Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Castellanos. Combined 1 for 28 in Game 6 and Game 7 of the NLCS. 1 for 28.
And if you want to make
Who
if you want to make a comparison, in the 22 World Series, they ended by going 9 for 98. They went the point they batted 092 in the last 30 innings in the World Series last year. And then here we are again talking the same thing about how they just can't short in their final 17 playing appearances.
So let me say this. Let me address that. I feel like Game 6 and Game 7, but just the eye test. I feel like they were pushing. I don't know if the pressure got to them
Oh,
in a
definitely.
sense, because I just feel like they were pushing at the plate to try to make something happen, try to get a home run. Like they got so home run happy, and the same thing happened to them in the World Series last year. They got that game where they saw the pitcher tipping his pitches, and they hit all those home runs, 7 home runs or whatever it was, and they got like no hit the next day.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it, this team relies on the home run, but in my opinion, they only have two real home run hitters on the team. Everybody, and I'm talking about Schwarber and Harper.
Mhm.
There are guys that can hit home runs. There are guys that can hit a good amount of home runs. But Schwarber and Harper are the only ones that are home run hitters, in my opinion. Trey Turner is a guy he can hit to all parts of the field, um, and he's fast. He's the guy you want on base. Stock can hit to all parts of the field when he hits. Bohm is hitting to all parts of the field. Castellanos can hit to all parts of the field. JT, nobody's talking about JT struggles. I feel like JT struggled in the playoffs. I really do. I feel like there were a lot of moments where he could have came up big. He did have a home run, and I think it was game 5,
Mhm.
4 or 5, I think.
Yeah.
But I feel like he struggled. I really do, but nobody's talking about that. I like JT too. I like JT Realmuto. I like everybody on the team. Um, Castellano struggled in the NLCS, but he carried the team in the NLDS and he carried the team in the wild card. So I mean, baseball is a sport that's up and down, right? You're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows, and it just seems like when the Phillies have their lows, they have it as a team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They have their lows together.
Yeah.
So, and it just comes at the worst times. Like they ran through the playoffs last year, got to a certain game in the World Series, couldn't hit the ball anymore. They ran through the playoffs this year, got to a certain game in NLCS, couldn't hit the ball anymore. They got pressing. And thinking about it, they were favored this year in the wild card round, and they were favored this year in the NLCS. The last 2 years, that's the only two times they were favored in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Think about that.
Yep.
Only time you're favored in the playoffs, you're playing the Marlins, who Marlins outside of this year, well, maybe this year too. Marlins kind of had the Phillies number, right? They didn't beat them as much this year as they have in the past, but the Marlins give the Phillies some problems. Philly swept. Um, then you go against the Braves. The Braves just hot butter through knife or hot knife through butter through the whole season, right? They trounced the Braves. Like they just kicked the Braves' butt,
Mhm.
and they just get cold. They get cold. They got cold last year. I mean, this has been the team's MO the last few years. If you think about it, they would get hot for a stretch, then they get cold for a stretch. And that's not ingredients to winning in the postseason because their hot streaks don't last more than maybe 3 weeks.
Right.
Just doesn't. Just doesn't happen. Oh my goodness, somebody's stomping around upstairs again.
I heard it this.
Um, you said you heard it this time? Jeez, it doesn't make we need. I think we need another carpet upstairs. So no.
There you go.
Okay, all right. Taiwan Walker did not get to pitch. We didn't see him in the entire playoffs. I don't know if there was a lack of trust there. I'm not saying he needed to start, but you don't see Mike. You don't see Michael Lorenzen, you don't see Taiwan Walker through the entire playoffs. Those are extra arms that you could have thrown. You could have saved Alvarado another night. You know what I mean? You could have. I don't even want to say you could have not put Kimbrel in the game because Kimbrel, in my mind, Kimbrel showed you the previous series that he can game. He just didn't have it against the Diamondbacks, right? Um, and I know it's more important, but not throwing a pitcher anymore because he had one bad outing to me is equivalent to not batting somebody in the lineup because they struck out every time in one game. Like you would never do that to a
Right. And
star.
I mean, and not for nothing, but Walker did win. He went 15-6 this season.
Yeah, he won
Uh,
15.
ERA wound up being kind of high, 4.38, and he struggled early. He had an excellent summer, and then in September he did have a couple of bad outings. Um, but you don't know what a player is made of until you put him in the spot, right?
Right. Right.
And that's been my mantra as a coach. And last year, because I had a younger team, I'm like, listen, I'm putting you in these spots. And I think I told you 2 games in a row we were up 6-0 and we lost 7-6. 2 games in a row.
Mm.
And but what it kind of taught them was, okay, we actually have the pedigree or the wherewithal to actually be competitive in these games and attempt to win. So the idea was to kind of progress to get to the next level. And it's like sometimes, and that's where analytics doesn't give you, it doesn't give you that knowledge of gut. It doesn't give you that knowledge of feel. Because sometimes you just have a feeling. Sometimes you gotta, and that's where you have to go with your gut. And that's where I think Topper was out coached. I think Luvello in Arizona, he went with his gut on a couple of things, and he made changes. He changed the lineup when things weren't working. Game one, game. When you
Mhm.
see the difference in their approach in the first 2 games in Philadelphia versus the last 2 games in Philadelphia, I mean, they
They
weren't
made
trying.
all the proper adjustments.
But they were mental adjustments. They were
Ooh,
psychological. Like
talk.
no no long swings. Everything was like, all
Mhm.
right, bat to ball. You know, Corbin Carroll won. No, Marte won the MVP, but Corbin Carroll could have won the MVP, and he did not homer us. He first batter of the game on in Game 7. It was a single up the middle, double in the gap.
Excuse me.
Straight right.
Continue your thought. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm going to shut this door. I'm sorry. Continue your thought.
Um, so they made the proper adjustments. They adjusted to what the situation was, and they did everything to win. Versus, like you said, Phillies kind of pushed it, and I think once they realized that they couldn't hit 7 home runs together, they were just completely befuddled. So they tried to swing harder, or swing higher, or higher and harder, and it just didn't work out.
No, it didn't. It didn't. So we got to sit on this for the winter. It's going to be a cold winter, whether it's cold or not. We got to sit on this till February, March, until the preseason start, until pitchers and catchers report, which I think is in February, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, or was that the winter meeting? Winter meetings are in January, right?
No, winter meetings are in December.
December. Okay. And then pitchers catchers report, and then we wait for the weather to get warm. But with that being said, we feel like the Phillies, we feel like the Phillies should not have lost that series, but unfortunately for them, the Arizona Diamondbacks played better, and To me, surprisingly, they got out coached.
Yeah.
They got out coached. And no, I'm not one that's calling for Topper's job. I think Topper does a great job. I think he's a good coach. I think he learned. I hope he learned, but I think he learned from this experience. Um, and I hope that he, is going to make proper adjustments going forward. You know,
Well, they got rid of their hitting coach, their assistant hitting coach, and I think a defensive instructor. So,
get Ron Washington in there. I need Ron Washington.
oh
Get
my goodness,
get him.
when they were
I want Ron Washington in here.
when the Phillies were looking for a new manager, it was down to Buck Showalter, Dusty Baker, and Joe Girardi. I wanted Dusty Baker.
I wanted Dusty Baker too.
I wanted Dusty Baker, but I was like, at the same time I was like, I really wanted Ron Washington, because I think, because people forget that Ron Washington was the manager for the Texas Rangers
Mm-hmm.
the last time they went to the World Series, and they went
Yep.
back to back years,
Yep.
and they were up 3 games to 2 against the Cardinals the one year, and actually in both games, 6 and 7, they were down to the last strike. No, I think that was 5 and 6. They were down to the last strike, and couldn't beat them. Couldn't win. But
That's what happens when you have Pujols and Yachty and all them guys over there. They figure out a way to win.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I did want Ron Washington, but when it was Buck Showalter, Dusty Baker, Joe Girardi, I wanted Dusty. And
yeah,
I think Dusty ended up going to the Nationals, right?
yeah. It was weird. He went to the Nationals for 1 season,
Uh-huh.
and
So it's
then
only one season?
it was only 1 season or two. It was 1 or 2, and then after the scandal hit about the Astros, then he became the manager. Once they had
Yeah.
to suspend their manager for a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I'm going to talk about the Phillies, man. We've talked about those guys enough. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
Um,
Oh, it looks like you're going to be stumping me today. Who was it last? Oh, Jamie Moyer. Yeah.
yeah.
And you know what, Miguel? I was thinking about it. I always forget that Jamie Moyer was that other starter. Always.
Oh, in the championship year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I always forget it was Jamie Moyer. All right. Oh, and there's somebody in the chat asking if we've ever been to Israel. No, never been to Israel. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, here we go. Wow, this person accomplished a lot of things. Okay, here we go. Two-time MVP, Rookie of the Year, Triple Crown winner, 14-time All-Star, two-time World Series champion, a Gold Glove winner, a World Series MVP, a batting title, Player of the Year award, All-Star MVP, and a Manager of the Year. And he played for the Reds, the Phillies, the Astros, the Rays.
The Braves?
Is it the Rays? Is that the Rays number
No.
36? The Royals? Just give me the teams. You know, this thing is my
Yeah.
colors over here. So
He played for Cincinnati, Baltimore, and LA. So the two red uniforms you see, the first two, they're both the Reds.
played for Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Los Angeles.
Yes.
Those are the only teams he played for.
Yes.
Cincinnati, Baltimore, Los Angeles. And he's a 14-time All-Star, two-time World Series. Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Los Angeles. So Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Los Angeles.
There is one, but it's kind of a trick. He also played for Cleveland. So
That
the
doesn't help.
here's the thing. You see how it says manager
It's
of the
not.
year?
It's not Pete Rose because he played for the Phillies at one time.
No, it's not Pete Rose. Um, but the reason why Cleveland is significant is because he was a player manager.
Cincinnati, Baltimore, Cleveland. Who was the other one?
L.A. Dodgers.
Cincinnati, Baltimore, LA, and Cleveland. Cincinnati, Baltimore. Give me the time frame of his career. Because if he was a player manager, I'm thinking this is a long time ago.
Yeah, so his playing career was from about 60 to 75.
Yeah, you're going to get me on this one.
But his managerial career was from 75 until maybe 3 to 5 years ago.
Cincinnati, Baltimore, LA, Cleveland. Now, the teams that he managed, are those any of those teams? Or was the
He managed Cleveland. He managed San Francisco. He managed Baltimore. And he was the last manager for the Montreal Expos. And he came over when they moved to Washington.
Frank Robinson?
Damn, you got it. Good guess.
I did not know Frank Robinson played for anybody else um, but Baltimore.
So he was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds, and then he was traded from Cincinnati to Baltimore because they thought he was done. And the year that he went to Baltimore, he won the Triple Crown,
Hmm.
and he won 2 World Series with the Orioles, and he became the first African American manager in the big leagues, and he did it with Cleveland.
And I hope I'm not wrong when I ask this question. He recently passed away, didn't
I believe so, yes.
he? Okay. I don't want to kill anybody off. Don't want to kill it.
um, but he was the first black manager in the American League, and he was the first black manager in the National League. He managed the San Francisco Giants.
How about that? Well, shout out to Frank Robinson. And the funny thing is, when people always talk about Brooks Robinson being like the greatest Oriole, I automatically think Frank Robinson.
It's funny because when you talk to people from Baltimore, they talk about the blatant disrespect of historical disrespect of how black players were treated. Here that they didn't get the same. Like when people think of the Orioles, everybody automatically goes to Cal Ripken
Mhm.
and the pedestal. But it's like, wait a minute, you did also have Eddie Murray, who was probably one of, if not the greatest switch hitters of all time, and Frank
Mhm.
Robinson. You had Adam Jones in center field. So it's like
Yeah.
you had all these players.
What about Albert Bell?
Albert Bell, the one who refused to walk to first base after getting hit in the head. He's like, no, I'm gonna hit him.
Yo, Albert Bell was a scary dude, man.
Yeah, he was.
That was a scary dude. Shout out to Albert Bell. See what he's up to. I don't know.
Last I heard, he was arrested for stalking. Um, yeah, haven't heard anything since that. So I think he's doing better and getting all the assistance that he needs.
I hope so. You remember when was it Baltimore that did it? Remember he signed somewhere for a lot of money, and when he came back to where he used to play, they were just throwing like it was green paper, but it was supposed to be money. They were like throwing it at him. Do you remember that? I want to
No,
say it was It might have been, I don't know if it was Baltimore that signed him or if it was somebody that signed him away from Baltimore, but he went for the money. And when he came back to whatever team it was, Cleveland or Baltimore, whoever it was, the crowd was like throwing green paper up to like basically, basically trying to troll him, basically. Because
Oh man,
yeah.
I gotta look for that.
It's funny that does not happen today
Yeah,
because everybody wants money now.
I mean, it's out there. So
I mean, it happened then, but he was the one that got
yeah.
harassed for it. But anyway, we're gonna get up out of here. It's almost midnight here on the East Coast, and we're usually not on this late. And I'm surprised Miguel made it this whole time because I know he will fall asleep in the drop of a hat. See, he's about to fall asleep right now.
Excuse me.
See it.
Once I figure out how to take this hat off, yes, I'm gonna follow. Hold on. Wait.
Come on, you can get it. Go ahead. It's probably gonna make that big sound.
Hey, okay, I got it.
Sheesh.
Oh damn, I'm lightheaded.
Yeah, I bet you are. All that blood going back to your head.
Oh jeez.
You gained 4 more gray hairs on top of your head because of all the circulation that was stopped.
You see that? Yeah.
Got a nice head of hair. Me, not so much. All right, we're gonna get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us for the Check Swing podcast with myself and my man Coach Santa, coaching the Maryland Dirtbags. That's what I'm gonna call them, the Maryland Dirtbags. Make sure y'all check us out here next time here on the Check Swing podcast right here on New Twist Radio. And make sure you also check out all of our shows over on newtwistradio.com or go to the YouTube and type in New Twist Radio and go ahead and subscribe to our channel, New Twist Radio. And make sure you check us out on Sunday for the 10-7 show where will be me, Tara, Tyra, Goose, and we will be continuing our conversation on why people stay in bad relationships because we really never got to even talk about it last time we were on. So we'll be talking about that on Sunday. So make sure you're there and join the conversation. It's going to be fun. But for Miguel and myself, we're going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us here on the Check Swing podcast. We'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.